Welcome to another episode in the ongoing saga, which is the WPL. So, the last iteration, I put the Leafsprings on, but I had problems affixing the front springs properly with the hardware I had, getting this aftermarket steering linkage to work right, uncompromisingly, the correct way. So, first and foremost, a couple of little bits with it. I had a lot of play in these parts, which was sort of causing binding. So, unlike other people's kits of this that have come disassembled, mine came assembled. So what I've done is tighten these up a fair amount to remove or alleviate the play, which in turn has stopped it getting twisted up, causing the binding. So as you see, that's all good. Plenty of articulation, look. That's solved that. Another way, these holes are all drilled out to 2.5mm with 2mm hardware, or M2.5 holes with M2 hardware, except the bushings inside the springs that could be reamed out a little bit. But just tightening this up sorted it, no problem, so that saves a lot of hassle. I might clean it up in the future, but anyway. So the main thing is getting the steering linkage sorted with the suspension flipped around with the hangers at the front, because the input shaft is inclined downwards, which is no way right. This was just a temporary stopgap to make it a roller and whatnot for the time being. So I'm going to flip that around and get all this sorted now that I've got the right hardware, which is an M2.5 Allthread rod, steel, 30cm long, accompanying hardware, M2 by 0.55 pitch Nylox. As you'll notice, over 30cm of this rod, there's a lot of flex in it, but we're only going to be using, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and there's minimal play in that. I plan to bring this cross link to below the steering arms and keep the upper link to the servo horn parallel to keep the steering geometry correct, no bump steer or so forth. Doing it like this, I am not compromising on the steering. You put a lot into this and it's got to be done right. So this was cut at 42mm off the rod. I filed it down. So what I'm going to do is put a nylock on the bottom, up through the cross link into the underside of the arm, and then I'm going to choke down, jam nut it on the other side to keep that all rigid, and then it'll be a jam nut underneath the horn link and a nylock on top of that. So it's going to be a little bit fiddly, but if it's too high, I've got a bit of room to bring it down and adjust it, even bring it down from the bottom with a little bit of stick out. But for now, that's the plan. We'll see how it works. Okay, it's back together. The solution seems to have worked out really well. I've left a little bit on the thread here, and that gives a view to moving it up and down and juggling it around slightly. But for now, it is absolutely fine. I can deflect with the springs flat. Don't know if you can see that, but look at how parallel the steering linkage is. There is not any bump steer on it. That is still parallel. It's not twisting it. For example, this is the MN90. Same servo, roughly the same orientation. It's got one of these stupid twisted bars on. Look at the bump steer on that. That has pushed the servo to 45 degrees. So for me, this is a perfect solution. Like I said, I've left this on here so I can adjust it before I cut it perfectly. Look what happens when I put play into this. All of that is translated from the suspension here. I don't know if you can see the springs moving across the bushings where they're not tight. They are clamped down as tight as possible, but I think they need shimming, maybe some small washers to keep them rigid. But nonetheless, the input shaft to the diff is at about 5 degrees, complete compression, and it's still parallel, maybe slightly inclined a bit, so that's no problem. I've got the other drive shaft for this side, or this one, to go back on perhaps now that it's not going to jackknife, and I've got the other sort of ones, but that's for future. Got the metal plate for this. Metal diff casings are going to be going on at some point, but yeah. The articulation on this now is sublime, and let's see if we can get you a shot down the pipe here. There you go. This is the steering horn link. Full travel, both directions. It's a very easy mechanism to adjust. Slacken off the middle 2 nuts, adjust up and down. Obviously this is the point that it adjusts about. As you see, it's way more rigid with the suspension, so it's no problem. This nut's jammed up on this ball link. This one's jammed up against the hind link, which is threaded on the arm. This one's jammed down, so that stops moving. This one's jammed up on that ball link, and this one's jammed down on it. So it's all held in place nicely. Very happy with how that's turned out. So anyway, thanks for watching. Any questions, happy to answer them. See it out on the trail. You Billy. Hey.